Hey everyone, it's your favorite indie developers here. We've once again crawled out of the basement to talk a bit more about our latest developments on our game Forge Industry. For those who don't know, it's a resource management and automation game that we've been working on, and you can wishlist it down below. We'll be releasing a demo on Steam next Fest, and afterwards we'll be releasing the full game. And we've been sharing the development basically with you guys here on YouTube. So we have, I think, quite a few interesting things to talk about as we are approaching, that release window. And Thomas, how confident are you in hitting that release? That's the energy we need. Let's get into it. We got some cool stuff lined up. We did some great stuff. So let's talk about it. One of the things that I've been annoyed by in our own game for the longest time is I do a lot of the playtesting, and we never until now really had good sounds. We had UI clicks just to see does our sound controller work, but we never put in effort to have good music, good ambient soundtracks, more UI sounds, things like that. So the last month I really was like, screw this, I'm gonna add sounds, and we still uncovered quite a few bugs with it. I got annoyed Thomas with that, but in general, we achieved quite a lot with it. So first of all, we got some music implemented. I don't know, I'll probably give you some samples or something of our sound effects in this video. But not just music, we also have ambient sound effects now. So if there's no music playing, it's not like the game is dead, but you'll still have, the whistling of the birds, and you'll hear some trees in the wind. And we also now have workstation sound effects. This is also something really big, I think, to make our world feel alive. If, for example, you have a wood saw, which is one of the buildings in our game, you'll have different sounds depending on, is the wood saw actively processing an item, or is the wood saw currently in an idle state? Then you'll just get like some occasional saws and knocks and stuff like that. Same with, for example, our forges. Is there coal in the forge, or is the forge just dead? Or is there a fire trick crackling, or is actually something being hammered on by our little dwarfs? This really makes the game feel a lot more alive. You can also hear what's going on in your game basically. And I think one cool thing as well is it's 3D sound, so it depends on how zoomed in you are on the building, that you can actually hear how it's going. So if you zoom out a lot, you won't hear a lot, or it won't be very loud, but you'll have all of the sounds meshed together. Whereas if you zoom in on a specific building, you'll just hear that one.
Another thing we added is a game over functionality. Well, it sounds very basic, I guess, but in the last year, we've done a lot of playtesting and we've done a lot of mechanics and things like that, but we specifically let this out because it's very easy for us. If you go broke, you die basically, just like in real life.
Especially in testing, we never had the need, because generally just wanted to keep placing buildings and buildings. So even for our Game Force demo, for example, we just gave an extremely high amount of gold and was like, play around with it. But over the past devlog, we also implemented, for example, that workers now cost money. So that was also part of that game over functionality.
Yeah, exactly. So now if you, if the day changes and you have to pay your workers their wages and you don't have enough money, well, let's just say you instantly die and you get a little summary of what happened in your world, what are the things you did well, or things like that. And it really adds to, well, the pressure, I guess, because before you really just was a bit of a sandbox and you could do whatever and there was no really game over condition.
Yeah, we're definitely getting more into the make it an actual game. Same with like our research system is now more and more implemented and we're starting to balance. So yeah, if you lose, basically, if you can't afford it, well, too bad. If you're lucky, you can go back to a previous save. That's how we currently implemented it. If not, well, you'll never be able to play that world again if you don't have a save for it. The next thing we did is hear me out,
once again,
we got World Gen working. Now, for those who've been following our devlogs before, I feel like this is the third time now that I'm saying we have World Gen.
We still had World Gen, just different World Gen.
So what it comes down to basically is we had our one world, or well, we have 4 biomes in our game, but we wanted randomized worlds as well, and we didn't have the randomization factor down yet. So we had one seed which we knew was good for playing, and then we just hard-coded where do buildings spawn upon this one specific seed. Of course, that's a problem if you want to change your seed, change your world, because suddenly your recreation area is in a mountain or is in the middle of the ocean, for example, and that's not really ideal. So what William did a lot he did most of the work here, I think, is he started working with terraforming. So now we have our randomized worlds and our buildings aren't set anymore. They're set per seed, but they're dynamically set based on where is there space. If there's no space, I will create space. And we still have a little bit of work there. There's still some hiccups on certain worlds with islands currently, where the game is unplayable, but we have made a lot of progress there. And now you can really play unlimited amounts of worlds with various levels of challenge.
The last thing we did, and this is very important in the genre of game we are in, is balancing. Mainly items. What do they cost? What do the resources cost? How long do they take to make? Things like that. To tackle this very challenging topic, we created a bit of a Unity extension method that we could just export all our data over scriptable objects, so we could easily see how many ticks does it take to create an item, how much does the recipe cost, how much would I gain per tick if I created this item, things like that. So this really helps us narrow down what items are and aren't good at the moment, so we can tweak those values and hopefully get somewhat good balancing ready for the demo.
Yeah, because before we had like items that would cost you about 1000 golden resources to make and you would get like 100 for it, which of course, if you're just playtesting, and like I said before, if you have like an extremely high amount of gold, you don't care, you just want to test your mechanics. But now we're past the stage of our mechanics and we're more testing in our balance and actually playing the game.
Yeah, what you just described is not very much stonks, but soon you will have stonks.
So those were the main topics for last month, but of course, especially now, I think we have so many smaller issues, and of course, you know, we gotta do it in our signature. You know what time it is?
Do I have to punch the table again?
You're free to it, but it's lightning round time.
The first thing we did is we added worker route expansions. What we mean by this is you can now say a route has to be paused for a certain time, or you have to specify you can only do this 10 times, so you can limit the amount of items you actually transfer somewhere, which is a really big quality of life improvement.
So for example, if you just want to fill up a forge one time with coal and you don't want all of your coal to be hogged up by that one forge, you say like, oh, you can get 5 coal and then stop the route. Or for example, you have an infinite route, but then you can say, okay, for now it's full, let me pause this route, and then no new coal will be delivered.
Another thing we did was our research expansion. Marnix made a big, beautiful tree, which broke my code to visualize that tree, because we do it all via code because we're programmers. So I fix it, he breaks it, I fix it, he breaks it.
The cycle of life continues.
Yep, but in the end, my tree was victorious.
Yeah.
So far.
Apart from just having a good visual display of the tree, we also added now that, because part of that balancing was, once again, one thing we also changed, for example, is moving buildings was also something you could always do. And also there is now a gold cost associated with, for example, if you want to move a building or if you want to unlock a new building. That was just some new code aspects we had to add. Before, research was simply, oh, you have 10 stone and you have 10 sticks, perfect, you can now make, I don't know, like a dirt pot or something. Now you also need to pay an upfront fee for researching how do I make this.
It really adds to the progression of our game, and we think in the long run, you guys will love the system we put together.
And then because of that research tree, we found some other issues. For example, we didn't really have a way to generate stone, and we were seeing more and more that stone was actually going to be a part of our game. So we got a new building as well. We have the beautiful quarry now. And this is, as the name says, it's similar to the mine, except the mine will be refocused more on late game getting minerals and stuff like that, whereas the quarry is simply I need stone or I need clay or something like that to just get you high amounts of stone in the beginning.
Another thing we did is very big but also very small at the same time, but it's big because there are a lot of small things, is polishing. Some examples of this are we implemented more cursor states so you can easily see what you're doing, like destroying roads, drawing roads, hovering over tooltips, things like that. We added a lot more tooltips as well, so you can more easily know what things are in the game without, well, we feeding everything to you, but you can explore around.
Yeah, and we also don't want to have one of those games that you need to go to the wiki to just do simple things.
Yes, exactly. And another thing we did is we created a new destroy road basically, which means you can, just like you draw roads at the same exact user experience, destroy them again, which is a lot more consistent. On top of that, we added some UI and UX tweaks, like you can now more easily drag certain windows around without having to start at specific areas and things like that.
Yeah, and then of course we have a huge list of all the bugs that we fixed basically, because we're getting more and more into playtesting now, which means that we're breaking more and more things, which of course we will also fix again.
Okay, so we just mentioned the things that we did. What are we going to do next? Well, a lot of polishing is still up ahead for us. And another thing we need to do is work more on save load. Well, the saving part is mostly okay, and load sometimes works, but at the moment some worker states are not loaded correctly, so they get stuck a bit. And this is something we will fix, hopefully by the next devlog.
Yeah, it's a bit of also technical debt because of we know that it's been broken for a long time, but we kept on implementing new and new mechanics. So now we just need to go through the whole load system again and make sure that all the mechanics we added since the original save system are actually properly being referenced now. Apart from that, we also have some other cool upcoming stuff in the next month, which you'll learn about in later videos as well. So that basically wraps up this devlog. I hope you are still excited for the game as we are. We still have a lot of things planned for it, of course, because we want to make it a success and really entertain you guys. And speaking of entertainment, that's what we try to do here. We also try to teach you some new things. So if you're new here, we make game dev related content like these devlogs, but also simply tips and tricks for indie developers, or when we go to events and our own networking experiences and behind the scenes at Bind Me Games. If that's something that you're interested in, be sure to leave us a like and subscribe as well, as it really helps us out. And in exchange, you get this cool content twice a week. So that's all I have for this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.